If you are still single and you are so tired of being single, you feel maybe like it's too late for you or there is nobody for you out there, this video is for you. Giving up on love is not the same thing as surrendering what's going to happen with love. And waiting doesn't mean doing nothing either. Waiting should be a place of preparation. And if it's not, that might be something that will be able to help you move forward into meeting the love of your life. I feel like if you have faith for something, but you're not moving forward, you're not doing anything towards it, it's very difficult for God to help steer your direction. It's like a car that is stopped. It's very hard to steer and it's not going anywhere still. But if you're moving the car, it's quite easy to turn the wheel or to allow God to turn the wheel and steer you in the right direction. I am 44 years old and I am single. So I'm in that boat with you. I've been on the side of things where I was crying at night, begging God for a partner, just begging to meet the right man. And also sometimes feeling like that man just did not exist. Or feeling like I was too old, it's too late, I've been through too much. But now I'm on the side of things where I truly 100% believe that my mate, my husband is out there. And I am confident in that because I know that if God puts a dream in your heart and a desire, He will fulfill it. But in the meantime, there is absolute preparation that needs to be done. And that's when I started feeling more confident in my future, is when I started preparing for it. It's the saying of prepare for what you're praying for. So if you've started telling yourself maybe marriage isn't for me, or there's nobody out there left, there's nobody good, or maybe I'm too late, I want you to stay with me for this video. Because you are not wrong for wanting love. There is no shame in wanting to be in a partnership. In fact, God knew we would want that. You don't have to pretend you want to be single forever. But you are not forgotten. The way in which you wait is the important part. So let's talk about that. I understand the exhaustion and that ache that comes with still being single when everybody else seems to be in couples. Everybody else started their family young. It seems like that. But that is not everybody's story, and that's not my story. While everybody was building their lives, I was grieving, and I was going through deep emotional heartache and grief, which I'll share with you later on, or if you've heard from my other videos, you know what that is. But you're allowed to feel that little bit of discouragement while you're waiting, but I don't want you to feel that way. Faith plays a huge factor in this as well. You're allowed to feel discouraged without giving up. There is a difference with that ache that comes with seeing people do family things and go on couple trips and things like that, but without completely giving up and saying, that's it, there's nobody for me. I honestly don't think God is able to release blessings to us if we have no faith. There was a woman in the Bible that was very sick for many, many years, and she went and she knew that if she could touch Jesus, she would be healed. And when she touched his cloak, she was healed immediately. And he said to her, your faith has healed you. To me, there was an absolute message in that, with him saying, you have to have faith. You have to believe. Do you believe? Belief releases God's blessings on your life, not just with marriage, but with many things. But giving up doesn't allow God to release that. Life is not linear. You know, there's this checklist that we kind of feel is this societal checklist that's pushed upon us, and they all have to be in order, otherwise you're off track. But people go through different things at different times. I was 27 when both of my parents passed away 4 months apart. Then a year later, I met a man, and we did get married. A year and a half after that. And then a year and a half after that, he left. After he left, I had so much healing to do, and it took a good 15 years. I was grieving the loss of my parents, the loss of my stability, my home. Financially, it was difficult. Then after my husband left, I felt like I was going through the loss of my parents all over again. So it took a very long time from the time my parents passed away to 15 years later, which was a couple years ago, for me to move through that healing. And yes, I had fun sometimes and I did some cool stuff, but mostly I just felt like I was trying not to drown. And now I'm 44 and I am in the most healed place I've ever been. And it took work, it took time. But while everyone else seemed to be building their families and careers, while I was just holding on to not drown, I was holding on to this tiny little life raft of shred of hope that there was more and that things were going to be good again. Other people were building everything. And I still struggle at times looking at somebody's Instagram and thinking, you have everything I ever wanted. And you had your parents the whole time. You had this support the whole time. You didn't have to go through the grief that I went through. You didn't have to heal from anything major. There was no trauma in your life. But life is not linear. Someone may get married at 20 and then lose that love of their life at 40. And then they never get married again. And then someone else could be 40 and have never been married and then meet the love of their life and they live till they're 80 together. We like to think it's just this checklist of life and you have to do it in a certain order. But that is not true. That's meant to discourage you. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not off course. There is not no hope for you just because you didn't go along that timeline checklist. You're not forgotten. You're not behind. That is just not your story. Now, what do you do in the waiting season? The waiting season is for preparation. We need to prepare for what we're praying for. Are there things in your life that are unhealed? Because if you're waiting for a man who is healed and in his divine masculine and thriving in life and knows his purpose and is healthy in all the ways, and you're not thriving in your divine feminine, healed from any trauma, then that is not going to be a good match. That's not going to be fair to him to have to deal with unhealed trauma in your life if he did the work to heal his trauma or grief or pain or issues. And if you don't work on those things before you meet him, then anytime there's a trigger when you're together, you are going to bleed all over him because you haven't healed that wound yet. And it's not necessarily fair that some people go through extremely hard times in their young years, or they grew up without parents or in a foster system, or they were abused or lost their parents young, or whatever happened to them earlier in life, while other people seemed to be able to just sail through. I know, because I've been on that end of this is not fair. I'm not saying it's fair, but I am saying that it's reality that you may have these things from your earlier life that you have to deal with. I don't want you to just be in a nice relationship, an okay relationship. There are a lot of those out there. You want a legacy relationship, a relationship where you're both working towards a goal in life. You're both supporting each other in your dreams and your desires and your hopes and your calling, where you can emotionally, intelligently discuss things when you disagree. Where when they try and keep you accountable for something that's going to make you into a better person, you don't flip out and get angry because something in your past is unhealed. That's not fair to that other person. And that's going to cause issues and it will break down your relationship. We don't want that. We want amazing, soul-aligned, God-ordained, beautiful marriages. That's what I want. I'm assuming that's what you want. If you work on yourself and become the woman that you are meant to be, that high version of yourself, not perfection. I'm not dumb. I know that nobody is perfect, but I'm talking about the healed version of you. Then God is going to reward that work that you intentionally did on yourself by giving you someone who intentionally worked on himself and is thriving in his highest version of himself too. This is not about your worth as a person. You have inherent worth. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of good things. Just like when a baby is born, you don't love the baby because they've done a lot of cool things in life. No, they just have inherent worth. You are that baby. You are that person. You have inherent worth. However, let's say there are two instruments, a violin and a cello, both beautiful instruments. One is not better than the other. Yet, if one of them has been tuned to create this beautiful music and they are exactly on tune and in tune, they sound amazing. They can be played beautifully. And the other one is out of tune and has not taken the time to be tuned, it's gonna be dissonant. If one person is healed and tuned and the other person is not, it doesn't mean one of you is good and one of you is bad. It means you're gonna have dissonance. It's not gonna sound good. There's not gonna be harmony. There's not gonna be cohesion that creates a beautiful song. It is gonna be constantly like, because one instrument is not in tune yet. That doesn't mean it can't be tuned. That doesn't mean it's not worth anything. That doesn't mean it's an awful instrument and it should be hard on itself. No, it just needs to take the time to get tuned. The song or the marriage that comes from two instruments or people who took the time to get in tune is going to be beautiful. Is going to change people's lives. Is going to be legacy because you're both in tune. Taking the time to tune yourself, even if it takes you a little bit longer for different reasons, it could have been because you went through something traumatic in your earlier life and have to deal with that before you're ready to be in a healthy, thriving relationship with someone. And no, again, that's not necessarily fair, but it is life. It is reality. And we have to deal with what has been handed to us. But taking that time to tune yourself inwards and outwards, if that's the case, is not punishment. It's preparation. I know that I want to give the best version of myself to that amazing man that I'm going to meet. I want him to walk into my life when I'm like, proud of everything. Look at who I am and look at who I have to give to you. I don't want to bring in trauma or pain or unhealed issues that he then has to deal with. No, I don't want to. And I don't think you want to either. If you're deeply honest with yourself. If you push away the timeline, if you push away the expectations that society puts on us, if you push away the checklist, inside, do you actually feel ready if a healed, masculine, amazing man were to walk into your life right now? Would you be ready to give him this amazing, healed, incredible version of yourself? And if the answer is no, then it's time to tune. A year after my parents died, I met a man, and he was not healed. He was not a healed person, and I was not healed because I had just lost my parents, both of them, 4 months apart. A year is not long enough to heal after something that deeply grieving and traumatic. So I did not see the red flags that he was very clearly putting out because I was not healed. So these are two out of tune instruments coming together and creating dissonance. There was like an auto tune on top of it for a little while, which is like the lovey-dovey stage, the beginning before real issues come in. But once that auto tune is taken off, that honeymoon stage, the real dissonance comes into play. I did not see that he had a pattern of leaving women. Well, I saw the pattern, but I thought I was special, as we all do. I thought I was the one that was going to be different, even though he had never worked on that part of himself between the last person and me. In fact, I later found out he left a fiance 2 weeks before he met me. He didn't take any time to tune his instrument. And because I was unhealed from the trauma I had been through, the loss in my life, I grabbed a hold of what felt safe, secure, comfortable. I held on so hard to that, but it was fake. It was auto-tune. It wasn't real. That is a perfect example of jumping in before you're ready, and two unhealed people or two out-of-tune instruments creating a very dissonant song in which it fell apart very quickly. And as much as we hate waiting, I mean, in this current world of everything being so instant, we don't want to take time and put in effort to get what we want. And this silence, this quiet time, this waiting period is for that preparation. Like, God's giving you that time to work on that. And the more you work on it, the closer you get to that relationship that you so deeply want. And then when you do get in the relationship, something's going to come up and you're going to think, thank God I healed that part of myself or that area of my life, because if I hadn't, this would have become a major issue and it may have even broken up this marriage. But because you're healed, you already dealt with it. So you come in whole, both of you, and you create something cohesive and beautiful and healthy. You may need quiet time. Give yourself a year to work on all the things you need to work on. Get off of the dating apps, unless God is directly calling you to be on there. I do know a friend who never online dated. God told her to get on actually a paid app, and she did. And the first guy she met on there was her husband, and they are happily married. But the general way that we use dating apps, I think, is really unhealthy. It causes a lot of heartache, distraction, noise, and takes us away from working on the things we need to work on. I don't want you to think that I'm blaming you for being single. I'm single. So I feel like I can say this from a place of understanding you. But I'm just coming from a place where I've been through all those dating apps. I've done all that stuff. I've been through all that noise and heartache. So I'm just past that, at a place where I am working on myself, on things I need to fine tune in my life, on my purpose and my own calling as a woman in my life, which is this YouTube channel, which will be retreats in the future for women, which will be continuing to speak and sing at events. But I don't know for sure if I would have gotten there if I had been with somebody, if I had been in a partnership already, and I definitely wouldn't have if I hadn't taken the quiet time to hear the tuning, to figure out if I was in tune in each area of my life, because many were just out of tune, enough to cause dissonance. I no longer believe that my life is late, that my future husband is too late. that I'm not going to get enough time with my husband when I do meet him because I serve a good God. I serve a God that knew what my path was going to be. He knew the trauma and hardship and grief that I was going to go through. And he knew how long it was going to take me to heal through that. And he's a good father. And a good father doesn't make you desire something like a husband and then just say, nah, I'm not going to give that to you. Okay, maybe it's not going to be in my timing. But why would God continue to give you that desire and then not give you that good gift? There's absolutely no reason for that. So if you believe in a heavenly Father, how much more does he want to give good things to his daughters than even an earthly father? And earthly fathers, good ones, want to give beautiful things to their daughters. They have him wrapped around their fingers, and he will move heaven and earth to give them what they want. How much more does a heavenly Father want to do that for his daughters, for you, for me? Much more. And much more perfectly, because he sees the whole timeline. Sometimes I also think God needs us to find our purpose before we find our husband. For some people, maybe their sole purpose is to be a mother and have 9 children and raise them. And a lot of times those people meet their husbands young. But maybe God has a purpose for you and a calling to start a business or create some kind of organization that helps women or children, or maybe you're a musician or an artist and God wants to get you to a place where you are thriving in that before he brings in your partner. Because I do think that sometimes what can happen is if you meet too early, then all that time and energy that you could have had during the waiting period goes into your partnership, and you forget that you as an individual have a calling as well. Not to mention that thing that you work on, that is the thing that you're thriving in and feel fulfilled in and you're called to, could be the thing that leads you to your partner. Maybe you start working out at a gym and then you decide to go into some competitions, maybe a boxing competition, and then voila, all of a sudden you're at a boxing event and your husband is there. A person that you never would have met had you not been thriving in a certain calling of yours. And again, this does not have to be a career. You may just have a job that you don't truly love, you don't feel passionate about, and that's fine. Maybe it's something else that you're called to that's a volunteer or a hobby or a side gig, something like that, but it fulfills you. Maybe where you live is not where your partner is, and that's why you haven't met yet. Trust that your journey is going to take you to him. Trust that his journey is going to bring him to you, and that you guys are going to intersect at the right time. Healed and beautiful and in tune to create this harmonious, beautiful relationship. I want you to have faith that he is out there. If you have the desire to get married, God will fulfill that. But take the time to work on your heart, to fine tune what needs to be tuned, but stay in faith, even if you feel that little bit of discouragement or that little pang or that ache. But I feel like the more you walk into your calling and do things that excite you and create this beautiful life, first of all, the more fulfilled you'll be and the less that ache will hurt on a daily basis. And secondly, you're going to draw someone in who's like, look at that woman. She is like on fire. She is vibrant. She is happy. I want to marry that woman. I don't think good, healed, amazing men who are thriving in their lives will be attracted by I just don't think there's anybody for me. I'm just going to sit at home and watch Netflix that night. Just go to my job that I hate. No. No. You'll be attracted to vibrancy and excitement about life. and whole, healed beauty. So a quick little synopsis of what you can do in the waiting period for your partner. Get healthy. If you're not healthy physically, work on that. Secondly, find something that energizes and excites you, something you feel you're called to. Find that thing and start working on it. Number 3, make space. If you have a phone full of men's numbers that you reach out to and flirt with when you need validation, it's time to let go of those. I did that a couple years ago. My phone, if I met my husband tomorrow, I could hand him my phone and feel confident that there's nothing that's going to come through that would embarrass me or him, or anything that I would have to feel like, oh, I need to end this before I do this. There's nobody that I would have to say, hey, I met someone else, or I met someone real, someone that I actually want to date. Nope. I made space in my phone. I made space in my heart. And I implore you to do the same. It's hard at first when we're so addicted to that dopamine and adrenaline from flirting online. But I actually believe, and I used to be so against this. Like, I used to say, I can flirt and meet the right guy at the same time. I can go out on dates all the time and then meet the right guy. Every story's not the same. Okay, fine. But generally, God wants us to make space for the thing that we're praying for. If there's no space, he cannot fill something that's already full. And especially if it's full with the wrong thing, God's not going to pour something pure into something that's full of junk. I truly believe that. And at first, it's very hard. I can relate to that so deeply. But after a while, you get used to it. You get used to the silence. You get used to hearing God's voice and fine-tuning things in your life and deciding on something else to work on and pouring into the beautiful relationships in your life that you do have, like family and friendships and community work. Focus on health, work, creativity, beauty in your life, and gratefulness. Work on gratefulness. The more grateful you are in the little things, the more content you are in life. And content does not mean stop working towards what you want. It just means that along that journey, you can feel peace and joy during it. This will not take away that ache or desire you have inside of yourself to get married. I still have that, but I don't feel desperation anymore. I feel faith and excitement. These things will make you more magnetic to the right person, though. It'll make your life more exciting and fun. It'll create beauty and radiance that a good, solid, healed, tuned man will be so attracted to. And will be like, I am not passing this woman up. She is amazing. Become the person you want to attract into your life. Don't give up on love just because you haven't gotten it yet. I want to encourage you in that. God will give you the desires of your heart, but first you must put him first. Work on your relationship with him. Work on your inner self. Become your best self, and you will attract a man who has become his best self and puts God first. Now go out, be a blessing, and rise into your radiance. Much love. Thank you for being here.